when I was a young buck project manager, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
wet behind the ears project manager. I said a large part of the value that I bring to a project is just listening, taking good notes, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure people know what they're supposed to be doing after the
Mm-hmm.
meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
AI is doing that now. And over the next year to 2 years, we'll look back on 2023 or 2024 as the last time we needed somebody in the meeting to be taking good notes. If everybody's got their own little AI assistant, right? You could
Mm-hmm.
be like, okay, remember everybody, I'll call it a meeting, even though it's not a meeting. I could be like, okay, remember everybody, we got status meeting by the end of the week, and you've got to get your input in by Thursday, or you're not part of the meeting, right?
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
never go to a meeting. We just have our AI. We tell our AI, hey, here's the update on what I'm working on. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get this action item done, but I ran into this problem. I got that extra obstacle. We're going to need to spend money on this, blah, blah, blah. Send it in. The AIs all talk to each other, right? The AI will come back to me and say, hey, Joe has a question about why we need to spend that extra money because he's got an extra one of those things laying around in his in his
Mm-hmm.
his closet. And I might be like, oh yeah, tell Joe I'll take it. Have him send it over to me. AIs go talk to each other. Now you've got a list of actions, and it's like, what do we even need a meeting? The only reason for a meeting would be so we could see each other and like bond, right? Because all the
I,
discussion can happen
yeah.
up here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll help out a lot with weaponized incompetence.
And the more I think about it, the more I think my book, working title, First to Leave No Carnage, actual title that I think I'm leaning toward, you and I agreed to it, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want anybody to steal it. But,
I know
but
what it is.
in the few months before launch, it'll be all over the internet.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the timing couldn't be better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to talk about we how new tech, and not just AI, but there are other new technologies coming in the next few years. I think we're going to see a transformation of how drugs get to market, and by get to market, I don't just mean get approved by the agency. I
Mm-hmm.
also mean they've got to be at the pharmacy when you go to fill your prescription. There's got to be medicine
Oh,
there for the pharmacist to give to you,
well,
right?
that'll help CVS.
Yeah.
I swear to God,
They half the time don't have it, huh?
half the time.
Yeah.
It's because they only order like 24-hour supplies of stuff. That's why every time you go into a CVS, there's shit in the aisles.
Yeah.
Every single time, they're like Dollar General. Every single time,
Yeah.
there's just crap in the aisles. That's why.
It's like
So
Dollar General. Here's one more thing I want to say about that. Um, that's Paul Schultz. I'm Steve Benson. This is the Don't Panic radio show. So sit back, relax, and ignore the news because nothing you're about to hear is true.
In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move.
Okay, so that was that. I did want to talk about the election a little bit today,
okay.
and because time capsule.
Do you realize though? Because we folks at home, we record on Wednesdays typically. The next time we're recording, the world could be on fire. It could be burning as we speak.
That's true. That's true. By the time you see this, it may be like, oh, it was a simpler time.
Yeah.
Last Wednesday was a simpler time.
Yeah. Lo, those many days ago.
I'm up for some wild, irresponsible speculation if you are. Like because it could be fun, a week from now to go, wow, you called it exactly. Or, ooh, we couldn't have been more wrong.
Aliens.
So as we sit here, in case you're watching this 18 years from now, this is in the before times. This is 6 days from official election day in the United States for president, but also a bunch of other offices, Senate, Congress, all that stuff, in 2024. That's when we're recording this. And I do have a few I tend not to go, this is what's going to happen. I tend to take the shotgun approach and just give a range of possibilities. And then whatever happens, I can go back and pick the one that was correct.
You're like a tarot deck, man.
I, I'm like
Or
I'm like a tarot deck. I'm like Nostradamus. He just said 5 million things. And then 2,000 years later, people are going, that kind of seems like maybe it could be the space shuttle blowing up.
yes, or the Simpsons even.
Yeah, The Simpsons.
You know,
Yeah.
they've been around for like 30 years. They do like 7 things happen that happen in reality, and suddenly the Simpsons are predicting everything.
So I am more and more convinced based on not, and who knows, I'm not as much in the bubble, the reinforcing information bubble as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I stopped Facebook and I stopped going to YouTube every 10 minutes. I stopped checking things every 10 minutes. The prediction markets, it's wild because the poly market, remember the not the dating app for polyamorous folks, but the prediction market still has Trump like 70% likely to win. But then if you go to the other prediction markets like Metaculus, it's got him like 52% to Harris at 48%, which is a tie. I mean, there's no difference between those two, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a
Mm-hmm.
prediction market. So something wild, and I heard it was some French multimillionaire decided to buy a bunch of shares in Trump winning, which is probably an attempt to manipulate the market. Or, like I said a couple of weeks ago, he just thought it was more likely than 52% that Trump was going to win. He's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not 100%, but it's certainly more than 52. So I'm going to put millions of dollars in. But if you have billions of dollars, a few millions like nothing. It's just you're
Mm-hmm.
playing. It's like going to the blackjack table and betting 15 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but other stuff that I'm seeing is, for example, we talked about this over Messenger. There's like 10%, 15% still in the undecided. That's why it's always like when you see the polls, it's like Harris 45% to Trump 43%. It's like, where's the rest of it? Right?
Yeah.
It's like 10%, 15% are undecided. And we've always said, who in the hell is undecided at this
If you're
point?
if you're undecided at this point, you're part of the problem.
Well, there are people that I thought of this as we were texting after the Puerto Rico statement. So those of you who've been living under a log for the last week, some comedian at one of Trump's rallies, pre-approved
Comedian.
comedian, yeah, not funny comedian, I suppose. He said, Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage, right? So
Yeah.
dissed Puerto Ricans, which Trump has done. Trump has dissed Puerto Rico in the past. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, well, that guy said that. It has nothing to do with Trump. It was at his rally. He was pre-approved to be there. Trump has said similar stuff in the past, and it is going viral. Like
Yeah.
it is like people don't tend to pay attention to stuff, but this one, people and usually it's kind of like, it's just Trump being Trump, right? Which is true, except there are a couple of groups of people that I would say have a legitimate claim to be undecided.
Mm-hmm.
They're certainly not white dudes from the suburbs. They're not white women from the suburbs. They're not inner city white people, black people, whatever. What it is there's a couple of groups that I could say, and one of them is Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're like in the Hispanic community, I could totally see somebody who's been here a long time going, okay, I'm being pulled in by this misinformation of there's too many people coming in, and it's making it worse on me because I'm Hispanic and people think I'm here illegally. It's making my life worse. We need fewer illegal people coming here, and that would make my life better. But Trump wants to deport all of us, right? So I'm kind of on his side because I want fewer coming in. Uh, but I can see that Kamala's actually kind of hard on immigrants too. But which one's actually going to do it? So I could see being undecided from that realm. I can also see it as like, let's say you're more of a liberal Hispanic and you go, Trump has said so much bad stuff about the border. He's scapegoating us for everything. Like the border's not that big of a problem and it's just making my life worse. I wish he would shut up about the border, right? So I vote for Hillary Clinton over Trump. I vote for Biden over Trump. And now my choices are Kamala or Trump. But after voting and seeing, first of all, Obama didn't really help me. He helped me some. I don't think Hillary Clinton probably would have helped me. Trump certainly didn't help. Biden hasn't done anything. Now, I'm not saying what I think. I'm saying what could be the case.
Sure.
If
You're always
Hispanic.
good at devil's advocate.
You're like, I'm just going to keep voting for Democrats and they're going to keep being as bad. And Kamala's been up here giving speeches that sound like Trump from 2020. Like she's starting to be a close the border, keep all the illegals out kind of person from the speeches I'm seeing, which now throws me into the Trump or Kamala, Trump or Kamala. So there's a lot of Hispanics in that undecided category for those reasons, right? Until one of Trump's surrogates comes out and calls Puerto Ricans garbage people, right?
Yes.
That's pushing, and there are a ton of Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. You don't need all the Puerto Ricans. And you might go, how's this going to push?
There's a weird line of Puerto Rican population that runs like from Pennsylvania down, into Florida. And a lot of this is like battleground territory. And
and that makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you immigrate from Puerto Rico, you're likely to land somewhere in the South, and there's probably a line somewhat close to some interstates.
Well, it's why I think about that like the way I think about like your dad, for instance, okay? Being, coming up from Alabama headed north.
Yeah.
And ended up, in Indiana. But if you walk around northwestern Indiana, there's a lot of, southern accents, if you will.
Yeah.
For no reason, because this is the North, guys.
Right. It's a migration thing.
It's a migration thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like why are all the cities by a river? Well, it's easy access. Right?
Yes.
So that's one reason that I'm like, if it was going to be close enough and Trump might have a chance here, I think he blew it. You know who agrees with me, by the way? Geraldo Rivera.
Yeah. I saw that too. I'm not a fan of the man.
There's a reason you're not a fan of Geraldo Rivera, because he's a garbage person, right?
Yes, yeah.
Nothing against garbage people. Hey.
I mean, hey man, everybody gotta make a living.
But Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush's daughter, we could list out all these Republicans who have come out against Trump.
Yeah.
We're not fans of them either, right?
No.
But it's like when they're saying it, like, okay.
Well, what's the saying? A broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're allowed a moment, what alcoholics refer to as a moment of clarity.
That's right. So that's one of the things that leads me to believe Kamala's I think she might outperform in Indiana. I don't think she's gonna win Indiana, but I think she'll do better than Biden did. And the reason I think that is the Republican governor who's currently running, very pro-Trump kind of guy, but also a little bit not pro-Trump. So he's got like some of the worst things of Trump, and then some of the things that the base likes he doesn't go along with. But his running mate is one of these like super Christian nationalist, right-wing pastors from like Noblesville or something. Ugh. People hate him, especially women. And so I think, and the Democratic nominee is a woman who used to be a Republican. So if you're a woman in the suburbs that normally votes Republican, you're kind of thinking, I could go with this Democrat because she used to be a Republican. She kind of agrees with me on a lot of stuff, and she's not a horrible person like this guy. So while I'm here,
honestly,
and while I'm here, I guess I'll vote for Kamala too.
Yeah, it's a pretty good strategy.
So I think I think Kamala's going to do pretty well. So I think she's going to win. That's where I am now. A week or so ago, I was getting worried, but I think Trump's momentum, if there's such a thing, has stopped because of that Madison Square Garden fiasco.
Yeah.
It's probably starting to head the other direction. People who vote early weren't going to change their mind anyway. If you're undecided,
Yeah.
you know, and so that's the other thing. There's been a ton of people voting early. The lines around here are 2 and 3 hours long.
I think the last number I heard was over 42 million.
Yeah, that's it's
Yeah.
huge.
That's insane.
It's huge.
It's as
And
it
those-
should be, but it's
Sure.
insane.
And those are people who have already decided. So
Yes.
you might go, oh, well, this Madison Square Garden thing, some people already voted. Yeah, people who aren't going to change their mind already voted. The
Yeah.
people who are still undecided are waiting, until they decide, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else they're waiting on.
Yeah.
What a top.
The other group that is justifiably undecided and will probably just sit this one out are Arabs and Muslims because of the war in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a thing, I'm not the biggest Michael Moore fan, but he said something interesting. He was on a news program talking about Michigan and needing to win Michigan. And he talked about, this is what we need in order to win Michigan. It's like 2 votes per precinct. It's a few thousand votes. And he said, we have a strategy for going and getting those, especially the ones that didn't vote for Hillary, that kind of sat it out because they didn't like Hillary, they didn't like Trump, so they kind of sat that one out.
Yeah.
We think we could get them back. And he said the one group we're not going to ask for their vote necessarily are the Muslims and Arabs. They've lost family members. They are watching what's going on in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's a bit
And he's
harsh.
like, I'm not going to go to them and tell them they need to go vote for Kamala, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I get that, and I get it. I would like to ask them to vote for Kamala, just simply saying, do you honestly think it's going to get better under Trump? It's like any hope of it being better at all is with Kamala.
Yeah. See,
She's been
that's the
calling
main
for a
thing.
ceasefire. Trump's been calling for a finish the job, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing you really need to ask yourself if you're undecided at this point.
Yeah.
Talking about Michael Moore, I only have 2 real problems with the guy. One is he could spend a little bit of money on clothes. And the other is he has like a half-hour idea, but he stretches it into an hour and a half. And it's just like his documentaries to me are kind of like snooze fests.
Well, in that Bowling for Columbine movie, that wasn't funny at all. I thought it was going to be like a comedy bowling, like a bowling movie, like Kingpin.
Yeah, like if the guys from South Park made it. Yeah. Oh my Lord. It'd be like Kingpin.
Yeah. But he did raise a good point though, because yes, I would, if somebody were open to listening to it, that's the argument I'd make. But if somebody's lost family or they have family actively, I know a guy whose family lives in Lebanon and they're like moving all over the place trying to get away.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and try to tell them what to do.
Right. Yeah.
If they ask, I'll be like, if they were to ask, I'd be like, yeah, vote for Kamala because it's going to get a lot worse under Trump.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons. Looking at the polls, I do glance at them from time to time. I'm not obsessively looking at them anymore. But here's the thing. It's going to be close either way. It's going to be 10, 15,000 votes somewhere. I don't know what. Last time it was like Georgia. This time it could be Pennsylvania. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
Already they're setting fire to ballot boxes.
7 time.
I have a problem with ballot boxes. First of all,
Are you the one that burned them?
No. Let me put that on record. No. Like Bugs Bunny. No. I want to know who thought up the idea of just putting ballot boxes out there in the wild. That's, to me, why would you do that? Because obviously we see what happens to them. Put them in places where you have to go into. Yeah. I seriously, and I'm not that big of a conspiracy guy, but I want to know who it was that came up with the idea, because I'm willing to bet that whoever came up with the idea for for ballot boxes out in the wild aren't on the right side of history.
You could be right.
I could be
I
wrong
always
too. If I'm
assume-
wrong, let me know in the comments.
Well, I always assumed it was people trying to increase access to voting. So
I get that, but there's plenty of places you can walk into and do that.
places like, inner city neighborhoods and stuff like that.
All of whom have drugstores, post office, fire departments.
Yeah.
So a place where it
your
can
issue
be.
isn't with ballot boxes per se. Your issue is put them somewhere where somebody can keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I have no issue with ballot boxes. It's just the idea of they're just out there in the wild, unprotected and unsupervised and unmonitored. Just targets is what they are.
Yeah.
That's the part that bothers me.
Okay. Yeah. Not that people are setting them on fire, but that they're there in the first place.
Would you stop? You're going to get me in trouble.
But I think the kind of thing we're likely to see.
You heard it here first. Paul hates easy access to voting.
All you got to do, any response to anything like that in the future, all you got to do is say, dude, AI could generate anything. I didn't say that.
Yeah, that was AI.
Somebody AI.
That was AI.
So I think what we're likely to see is maybe organized. So I think we'll see organized efforts to stop counting, like Trump campaign going to specific precincts, especially when the shape of the race when the contour of the race starts to become clear late Tuesday night into Monday or into Wednesday morning. Especially if Trump is leading like he was in 2020, if he's leading going into Tuesday night, and now they got to count the absentee ballots and all this stuff. There's going to be court cases to try to stop the counting of the absentee ballots. That's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
That'll be the organized effort. There's also going to be probably organized, but with a couple of levels of plausible deniability. There's probably also going to be violence at the polling locations, like before they can get their counts in, or before somebody's going to storm into a thing and try to steal the absentee ballots. There are going to be election officials who are actually there specifically to disrupt the voting. Because I went online because I was thinking about volunteering, or you actually get paid. So I was thinking about working as a poll worker.
I have a friend that does it.
And it's easy. You go sign up. That's all you got to do. There's some training, but I don't think there's a huge, and nothing in a background check would find anything anyway. If you're a true believer Trump supporter, QAnon person, you can get on there and you can figure out where the absentee ballots are and, do whatever you want with them. So if Trump's leading at your precinct around midnight, I'm getting rid of the absentee, but we're going to stop counting or whatever. I'll start a mass shooting. I'll set a fire. I'll pull the fire alarm. I think we're going to see quite a bit of that in some of the key counties, like the one where the office took place, Lackawanna County, which is Scranton and Joe Biden territory, whatever the county of Philadelphia is in, the key Michigan and Milwaukee, where Black people live is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
We're going to see sabotage. We're going to see attempted sabotage. Now, if then that is unsuccessful, I think the next phase of the operation will be, again, going to court, trying to get courts to overturn certain votes and that kind of thing. I'm skeptical that the court system will hold up the same way it did last time. Last time, things held up pretty well. Republican elected officials and Republican appointed judges were pretty good about going, but that's against the law. That's just not right. We're not going to do that. This time around, he's had 4 years to put different people in those positions. So
which is entirely was one of his primary focuses. There was nothing presidential about what he was in there doing. It was all to keep him in there.
Yes. Yeah. And so, let's hope that those institutions hold up under the pressure. If it makes it to the Supreme Court, we already know they're in the bag. This is the bag episode. I keep talking about bags. They're in the bag for Trump. So they will rule like they did for George W. Bush, only there's more of them now and they're more radicalized now. So we can't rely on the Supreme Court to do the right thing.
No.
But I do believe, and this is the boldest prediction, if all that, like if they're successful, the next level of defense, of course, is Congress certifying the thing and whatever, that's a formality, right? So if the Republicans do keep the House, I believe they will try not to certify it. But even if they're able to, so I think that's where we're going to see Biden stepping in. If they don't do the right thing, Kamala clearly won the election.
Yeah.
The courts are making these rulings that are just head scratchers, right? Trying to get Trump back in. Biden's there. He's the commander in chief.
Yeah.
He has the military, and there's not a general out there who's going to put their life on the line or their honor or their reputation on the line for Trump after seeing what he's done.
Yeah.
They might have before, but now they see what happens to every single person who serves him. Eventually he discards them like Putin's yesterday's trash. So I think that's the ultimate constitutional crisis, right? I think I could see Biden going, I know what the Supreme Court said, but I'm not leaving.
Change the channel, Marge.
We were actually ahead of the game for once, because now what's making the rounds on TikTok is what we discussed last week.
Oh,
About, so we actually got ahead. We were ahead of TikTok last episode. So like the 28 people that watched us, you guys know.
They already
know.
My wildest, boldest prediction is one that everybody will say, nobody saw this coming. And that is January 20th is the date that the new president gets sworn in, right? I think Biden will resign on January 19th. Again, this is if the courts side with Trump and it's clearly it's clearly wrong. Now, if Trump wins by a whole lot and we're just wrong, Biden's going to step down. Trump becomes president if he wins by, without crazy stuff going on. If Kamala looks at it and goes, yeah, he did win that, then I think she will concede. Trump becomes president, whatever. But if it's clearly shenanigans, that's what I should have said, intentional tomfoolery. I think on January 19th, Biden resigns. The Supreme Court has to swear in Kamala Harris. They can't say, but Trump won the election. It's like, no, this has nothing to do with the election. She's the vice president. Biden resigned. You have to swear her in. Now she's president on January 20th, and it's like, okay, we're going to swear Trump in, and she could be like, you can do whatever kind of swearing in you want, but you're going to have to find a military to come pull me out of this White House. Right? And she could just gather the generals around and go, I'm the commander in chief. That's shenanigans. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your stay at the White House. I could see that happening, though. I mean, the Supreme Court does not have a police force. They don't have a military. They don't have they got Congress has the Capitol Police, but they're not. Capitol Police are going to be like, wait a minute, you mean the guy that got some of our folks killed?
Yeah.
You want us to do what now? So I think I like the odds, even if Trump is able to get the courts to back him, is what I'm saying. Well, for General Jackson and for Kamala Harris and for Paul Schultz, I'm Steve Vinson. This has been the Don't Panic Radio Show, and nothing you just heard was true.
Especially the part about me not liking ballots out in the wild.
Here we see it's a rare sighting of the unattended ballot box in the wild.